you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go, go, go! Until they reach the top. Till the Grey Argos go, Toronto go. Go Argos go, go, go.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 10 of the Argo Bounce Podcast show with co-hosts Nick Small and Chris Pomay on this Friday, September 5th, 2025. And we got some audio feedback here, so I think we'll fix this. I do apologize. Audio issue right now. Hang on. Nick, Nick, are you there? Audio issue right now. Hang on. Nick,
yep.
Are you there?
Yeah, okay. I can hear you. I don't know what's going on, but I can hear you through the stream, but I can't hear you in our live studio. So we will figure a way to work it out, but it's okay.
Yes.
We got a lot of fun things that we get to discuss today. It is the Argos bye week. We get to talk about unbelievable Labor Day Classic. One of the games for the ages, the Argos almost threw away in the dying seconds. And then we also get to potentially have a really special guest come on as we get forward to talking to the games this week. And as I am talking about this game, we have a scoreless BC Ottawa game in the late stages of the first quarter, scoreless, but BC is charging to get a score in. And then the Laurier Golden Hawks are playing the Queens Gales in a rare Friday night game, which Laurier is currently leading 21-12 in a game which they should probably be leading by more, but they've taken penalties that have negated almost 150 yards in special teams returns.
Nick, as you were just talking there, our special guest has popped on, and I'm excited to have him. He's a former head coach of the Toronto Argonauts. He's a 4-time Grey Cup champion as a head coach. Overall, the head coach, offensive coordinator and GM, 6-time Grey Cup champion in 8 appearances. And we're going to bring on Adam Rita right now to talk a little bit about his CFL career and a little bit about the Toronto Argonauts as well. Good evening, Adam. How are you doing?
Awesome. It's always great to, be up at this time of the day.
Well, thank you so much on behalf of Nick Small and myself, who are lifelong Argonaut fans. Thank you for doing this, Adam. It is a pleasure to have you on here, and 6-time Grey Cup champion.
Well, I was really fortunate to be in 8 Grey Cups because of great players. And, when you're blessed with great players, you try not to screw them up too much and let them play their game. And in those days, there were only like 4 coaches. So you get pretty close to the guys that you're working with, and they got to be really part of the plan. So it's a lot more intimate then than it is now. Now it's computerized. Everybody can talk to everybody, and it's and there's at least an 8 or 9-man staffs now. So there is a real separation between the coaches and the players, not like when I was coaching. I love that.
Adam, were you a part of the '83 BC Lions team that lost to Obi and the Toronto Argonauts in the Grey Cup?
Oh my gosh. Yep, that was my first year in the CFL, I think. Yes, I was with the BC Lions, and it was opening of the BC Place that year, and that was awesome. And yeah, it was we played. We were lucky enough to get into the Grey Cup, and because the Grey Cup was being played in BC Place in a covered dome, and Toronto won the East, and they came out west and beat us. They actually went for 2 points, I think, at the end of the game to beat us. So we didn't play very well on offense. Our defense played well enough, I thought. And if we could have, and I was the offensive coordinator. If we could have had a couple more first downs, we had our chances and didn't execute it as well as Toronto did.
Adam, how did you end up in the Canadian Football League in 1983, and how much of an adjustment was it coming to the Canadian Football League from the States?
Really, not much, because I was at Boise State and we couldn't recruit a tight end, so we ran a double slot, one backfield, and we used the various combination of routes. And then when we went to Vegas, we were able to get a guy, a tight end, three of them. They all went to the NFL, and so we went to a more conventional offense. And then I went to Hawaii, and we ran a combination. They brought me there to throw the ball, but they didn't tell me it was only on 3rd and 18. We're going to get to throw the ball. So it was a bit of a learning process for me. So I learned how to eat the clock up, because our head coach is more of a defensive guy, and he didn't want the offense to. So I learned a lot about clock control and running the football and stuff like that there. And not at Vegas, we never worried about it. We just ran the ball when we wanted to, and we passed the ball when we wanted to. But in Hawaii, the philosophy was a little bit different. But I got into the CFL quite involuntarily. What happened, I was coaching in Las Vegas, and I had a hell of an off-season program. I had a quarterback that was going to get drafted in the NFL, Glenn Corano. He ended up with Dallas. But anyway, Coach Knapp had, my boss, had really coached in the CFL, and Vic Rapp had called him because we had a running back that Vic wanted to sign, but the kid was going to wait for the NFL draft, and he ended up with the Falcons. But anyway, and he said, "Who coaches your receivers?" And he said, "Well, Adam Rita." He said, "How would he like it to come up as a guest coach?" And so the old man coach said, he brought me in. I said, "No." I said, "I got all these guys, He goes, "It'd be in the summer." I said, "We'd have summer workouts, right?" And illegal now, but maybe it was illegal then. I don't know. But NCAA rules at that time. But anyway, so he brings me in the next day, and he goes, "I accepted the invitation from Vic Rapp from the BC Lions." I went, "Coach," he goes, "You only know me. You need to know more people. You need to network more." He says, "I'm 70, some whatever age he was at the time," and he goes, "You need to meet more people." So basically, I called. He said, "Here's a phone number to call." So I called. The secretary answered, and she said, "Well, I got your tickets ready." I said, "You guys got all of that ready already?" He goes, "Yeah, your boss said you're going to take the job." I said, "Okay." So I said, "When I get there, who's picking me up?" He said, "Oh, Vic Rapp will be picking you up." I said, "Well, I don't know him. Never met him in my life." And she goes, you'll know him. He'll be the short guy. He's kind of craggly looking, and he'll be saying more F words than he can say any other word in the dictionary. So I said, we'll be at the airport. She goes, it doesn't matter where he's at. So sure enough, I come off the airplane, and here's this guy, and he, as soon as he opened his mouth, he said, hey, and then Adam Reader, but he had to say the F word in front of it somehow, right? But it was hilarious, and I met him, and I was a guest coach for the Lions. I think the whole time he was with the BC Lions, he tried to hire me a couple times, but I said, it's Vic. He tried to hire me as an O-line coach one time. I go, I was in the meeting when a player asked you, how long do we have to pass pro? And he goes, yeah, what? So he goes, well, you got up, turned the lights on. At that time it was film projectors. Turned the projector off, turned the damn lights on, got up in front of everybody and said, as effing long as the quarterback is holding the effing ball. And I went, to me, I would never be a line coach. I said, to a certain degree, you're right, but we can't block them all day. You know, everything has to be a rhythm. And he was a 7-step drop guy, so that means you have to really pass pro for a long, long time. And I'm more of a 3-step, 5-step kind of, get rid of the ball kind of passing game for. Even though we throw deep a lot, I like to have a rhythm throw. So that's how I got into the CFL. And then, to make a long story shorter, I was in LA at a convention, and Steve Barado, he and I coached together at Boise State. He was coaching Saskatchewan. He took a job with the BC Lions when Don Matthews took the job in BC, and he said he's looking for an offensive coordinator. And I said, well, I'd be interested. I was in Hawaii at the time. It was time for me to make a move, and I wanted more of a wide open type attack, more of my style of the game. And so Steve calls up on the house phone we're in the hotel. And he goes, hey, Don, Adam is interested in the OC job. Set him up for an interview. So I go up, I knock on the door. The door's open. I walk in. And here's Don Matthews in bed, stark-ass naked. I'm going, oh, this is not good, right? He goes, I was going to take a nap when Steve called. I wanted to be sure I talked to you. I didn't have a chance to. I said, no worries. As long as you don't get out of bed, I'm good. So I sat down there. He goes, when can you take the job? I said, do you want to interview me? He said, hey, I've known you for 20 years. I don't think things have changed much. I said, no. And he goes, well, when can we announce you taking the job with us? And I go, well, I said, okay. I said, the letter of intent, I think at that time for SC2A was February 1st. And so I basically said right after the letter of intent. And I went back to Hawaii, recruited my guys, got them signed, and went to BC. That's how I got in. And the first year I was there, we went to the Grey Cup.
83 with the Lions. You lost to the Argos by 1 point. Right. And then you guys got your Grey Cup in 85. Adam, before I let Nick ask you some questions, I wanted to get your thoughts on how good of a head coach was Don Matthews?
Well, he had the one ingredient that all great head coaches have, and I wish I'd had that a little bit more. He was really how do you say it? To the press, he was. But if you ask him a question, he thought it was dumb. He he was not nice to you, right? To the players, he was a players' coach. That means he he was he was demanding, but he was also very professional. He took care of his guys, right? So he and to work for, he knew when you needed help, and he knew when to leave you alone. He was a great guy. If you're an offensive coordinator, he was like the first guy I learned under Tony. That he's magical that way to work for. He gave you a philosophy, and he pretty much let you do your thing, right? He said, "I want to run the Edmonton offense," because he came from Edmonton when they had Warren Moon and Wilkie when they won those 5 Grey Cups. And so I said, "Here's the playbook." I went, "This is like the stuff we ran at Boise." He goes, "I knew you'd know how to run it." I said, "Can I use my own verbiage, because my own terminology, because otherwise I got to learn a whole new language." He said, "You do whatever you want, but I want us to be throwing the football. I want us to be explosive. I want us to be able to get the ball to our guns, our big receiver like Mervyn Fernandez or David Williams, guys like that, Ron Robinson. We had some great players, let alone we had Pancratz there. We had, and when Vic was there, we had another really good receiver, Canadian receiver, Al Sharuk. And he was the best post pattern runner I've ever seen. And but I never got to coach him full time. I was just there for the preseason. But anyway, so that's kind of the way I got into the CFL. And I watched a little bit on TV, and I loved the motion and stuff. And I often wonder how they choreographed all that. When I came to the CFL, I was pretty conservative with the motion, so I let the players kind of, the veteran players kind of indoctrinate. Well, we can do this, coach, and do this. I said, well, I want Red and Blue series or search and Red and Blue series runs to look like this, and they would say, okay, and then these are the motions we can add to it. So it was kind of a partnership between me and the players. And when I went to BC, I knew all those guys because I was a guest coach there for, I think, 5 years. So I knew the strengths and the weaknesses of the guys. And then we made Joe Papa the backup quarterback, and we moved Roy DeWalt to the starting quarterback position. And that kind of changed a little bit of what we did offensively. Joe was he was the gunner. He had a great arm. And Roy was more athletic, bigger, stronger. Well, I'm not saying stronger, but really a physical runner and a great thrower. So, and he was younger. He was his second year, and Joe now became trade bait. And I think we traded him that year, I think, maybe to Saskatchewan. And they went on a run too. They were, it's unusual to trade a quarterback. I forgot what we got for him, but to a rival team, but we did.
Nick, do you have a couple of questions for Adam Rita? And Adam, are you still good for time for a bit?
Oh yeah, I'm retired.
Okay, just had to check, because I think me and Nick could talk to you for 5 hours at least.
Absolutely. I was really fortunate back, I think 2 years ago it was, that I listened to a talk you gave at an Argos alumni luncheon in Toronto not that long ago. So kind of bringing back some of those memories and stories you shared back then, it reminds me a lot. One thing I wanted to ask you about a little bit was kind of your post-CFL career. I know you spent some time in Europe coaching the Barcelona Dragons, if I'm not mistaken, and a team in Italy. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. What was it like spending time in Europe coaching football and building up football in a market that isn't kind of seen in the same light as maybe in the United States or Canada?
Well, The one thing is, I'm a football coach, and I'm kind of like a barber. Anybody that plays football, any country, I can go and coach. It doesn't matter about language. It doesn't really matter. So, I got to talk to like Danny Machocha, guys like that. They've been in Europe. Danny used to be with the Bergamo Lions. So when they called me, first of all, I got into Euro players because a guy that used to work for the Lions formed this website where you can put your resume on there. So I put my own on there, and I wanted to be in Prague. So, or Hungary, because my wife's Hungarian. She's from Baja, Hungary. And so I was looking into a place near the Romanian border there, Bekeskaba. And we went and visited them. Then I went up to Prague, and we really like Prague. And I was able to work out a deal with them. And they were big, for some reason, they were big Boise State fans. And but anyway, when I was 13 years old, I come from a little island in the middle of in the Pacific, Hawaii, the island of Kauai. I wanted to see stuff. I mean, in an hour I can be from one end of the island to the other, and if I walk, maybe 2-3 hours, right? So I wanted to see things. So I said, when I'm turning 65, whatever I'm doing in football, I'm going to travel. I'm going to go to Europe. I'm going to see, I'm going to see things, and I read a lot, So when I was going to take the job in Bekeshkova before Prague came into the picture, my wife told me all about Hungary. I studied about the history of Hungary. I knew certain key words in Hungarian. Then I got the job. Well, in the meantime, before I signed or accepted it, Prague came into the picture. So I said to Judy, I'd rather take the Prague job, even though the other job's in Hungary. She agreed to it. So we did that. I felt bad about Bekeshkaba, so I got a buddy of mine who was also retired to go there, and they loved him. And he and I coached in the CFL a little bit together, and then we had coached in Vegas together. And I brought him into Vegas. He was one of the high school coaches that I loved. Anyway, so I kind of had my life structured. When I retired, when I turned 65, it was 12 years ago. I got calls and saying, I need an offensive coordinator, or we need this, or we need that in the CFL. I said, guys, I'm retired. And that's what I did. And, this year I ended up, I didn't finish the season with them. We went to Europe because my mother-in-law was very ill and she passed. But to be with her, I took a job in Berlin in the ELF. And then my wife stayed with my mother-in-law in Hungary and then commuted. And then when she was ready to go, I resigned. No, they knew that I was going to do that. And I went down there and spent the last 2 weeks with my mother-in-law and was able to say goodbye. And then I came back home to Ontario, Toronto, Mississauga, and I was going to coach with Football North again, which I've been doing since the beginning. In 2016, I think it started. And my wife said, we're retiring, and we're moving back to the country. So we're actually, even though I'm in Mississauga now, because we're visiting our grandkids, we actually live in Walkworth, which is near Port Hope. So I'm a country boy now.
Nick, do you have another question for Adam?
Did I even answer your question?
Yeah, no, you did. It got a lot of insight on Europe. I'm really interested in that because I was looking into it. I heard you mention about the website there, and I happened to take a look at it today before we did our interview for a little bit of background. It's just for me, it's really interesting to hear about how, as someone else who enjoys like exploring and traveling and learning about the world, you've been around so many places now through football. Was there anything? And I know you mentioned Prague, but is there any place in Europe that you really encourage anybody who goes there to go travel to go and see,
Well,
to visit?
I talked about Prague, but really my favorite place was in Bergamo, Italy. And Bergamo is the northern part of Italy, not too far from Milan. And I was able to develop a quarterback who's Italian. We always were the Bergamo Lions, and you have four imports, which are usually Americans, two on offense and two on defense. Usually, your American is one American on offense is your quarterback, and the other one's a receiver or a running back, depending on what you want to do. So when I went there in my second year, we had this 6'7" guy, and I didn't recruit him. We had a recruiter, and he played baseball in Hawaii, but also played football. But he wasn't Hawaiian. He was from California, San Diego. And so they brought him in, but this guy could run. He had a cannon for an arm. And he was a baseball pitcher, but I can see why he didn't make it as a baseball pitcher, even though he had a cannon. He couldn't hit the side of a barn. I mean, he was the most inaccurate guy, but he was a stud athlete. But I had this little Italian guy. His name is Andrea Fimiani. Google his name. He played for Guelphi this year. They won the championship, and they played the championship the last 2 years, the Italian championship, for some reason in Toledo, Ohio. And a year ago, not this past season, but the year before, my wife and I went to the game because he was playing in a receiver that was his guy he threw to all the time when I was at Bergamo was playing for the other team. So we went down and went to the game and everything like that. But Bergamo, Italy, to me, if I had to live any place else in the world, you'd go back to Hawaii. I would go to Bergamo. The people there are fantastic, or Italy, especially in northern Italy, and I can't say enough about food or the competitiveness. The football league, the league itself is very competitive, and they're very balanced, and it's a fun league to be in. Oh, actually,
Adam, go ahead.
We did have a visitor, and I was shocked. Mike O'Shea came.
Wow.
Yes, and he had his whole family. So he knew I was in Bergamo, so he came to Bergamo and loved it. Went to the the castle and all that. There's a lot of things to see there, and we went out to lunch. And even though I invited him to lunch, he paid for lunch. So I said, "Oh, it's pretty good."
Says a lot about the CFL family, how it sometimes transcends the team's
Oh yeah,
the team boundaries.
he's a class act, and he and I have the same birth date, not the same year, unfortunately, but the same birth date.
Hey, Adam, Mike O'Shea, Hall of Fame linebacker. How good is he as a head coach? And did you know when he was playing, he would become a head coach one day?
Well, when he retired, which is, sooner or later, no matter how good you are, you're going to retire. He went into the medical field. He was selling, I think, knee, those artificial knees, I think. And and when I hired, what's his name, Jim Barker, I told him there's two guys I wanted you to hire. Number one is Mike O'Shea and Orlando Steinauer. And he agreed to do that, and he did that. And I always knew Mike. See, Mike was like a quarterback on defense. He studied as much video as any quarterback I've ever been around, and that's a lot. And he knew what was going on. Whatever he had God gave him that gift and he used it. And then he was of great size for his position, and he played his position with a chip on his shoulder. He was a true old school hit you in the mouth middle linebacker, and he played angry. you know, so he was a kind of guy. My dog is Cooper.
Dogs are
So-
number one, by the way. Dogs are
What a
number one.
cutie.
Cooper.
So excuse me.
No, it's okay.
Cooper gets there. Come on. Jeez. Well, my granddaughter's gonna come in. But anyway, I knew he and Steiny were just they were alike, in so many ways. I think Michael was a little bit more aggressive. Stein was more of a quiet type of aggression, So I love them both. I think they're doing a good job. I'm not sure what Orlando's doing now. Is he still with the Ticats?
Yes,
Yeah.
he's the president of operations. He's still with them. Yes.
There you go. So it tells you a little bit about him. Class act.
Hey, Adam, we've got a viewer watching. His name is Richard Chong. He's a longtime Toronto Argonauts season ticket holder. He's a fan. He's a friend of Nick and I, and he has a question for you. He goes, "Hi, Chris and Nick and Adam. How much fun did you have coaching the '91 Grey Cup team? And that game in Winnipeg, was that the coldest game you ever coached in?"
Oh, has to be the coldest I've ever been in my life. But that team was they were really special. I mean, Mike McCarthy put together a really good football team. We were good the year before, if you remember correctly. We led in 1990. We led all of professional football in scoring. We did the know-how, shoot the lights out type of offense. Now, see, there's another Don Matthews type of deal. He didn't even tell. He goes, "We're going to shoot the lights out," and now I got to come up with how we're going to shoot the lights out, right? So, luckily we put together a good football team, and then when he left, Mike hired me, and we were able to do some things extraordinary. We had some really good players. We were able to get David Williams the year before on a trade because, anyway. So I got him from Edmonton, and he's one of the best receivers I've ever coached, and he's in the Hall of Fame now, and I think he's in the Raiders Wall of Fame or whatever. But anyway, we had guys like that, and then Rocket, you had Rocket, and I mean, it was a zoo. I'm not kidding you. It was like we had, what's her name? The famous singer was with Kelsey now. Anyway, it was like having a superstar on your team, and then to have Wayne Gretzky as an owner, and John Kennedy was a class act. I mean, he was something else. He went to every game. He really promoted the CFL. He was fun to be with, and he loved his Argos. You know what I mean? I'll never forget that year. I mean, it was probably in my career, probably the greatest year of my life. We had great players. We shouldn't have never lost the game, but I think the losing the game made us a better team, humbled us. You're never as good as you think you are, and never as bad as you think you are. So, we got humbled. I think we got beat in Hamilton, and talk about the Labor Day game. I love those games. I mean, when I was in Edmonton, we had the duel between Calgary and Edmonton, and in Toronto, we had the duel with the Ticats, and those were great rival games. I remember one year the league, I thought they lost their mind when they didn't have the Labor Day game between Toronto and Hamilton. It's a classic game. I mean, to be part of it, to be whether you're in the stands or on the field, it doesn't matter what the records are of those teams before you get into the game. Throw it out the window. I mean, look at it if you go back in history itself, right?
Adam, as head coach in '91 with Gretzky and Candy and McNall, and it was like a Hollywood environment. How difficult was it for you as a head coach? Obviously, you had talent on that team, a great roster, but how difficult was it to keep the team focused on the winning and not all the other stuff going on outside the field?
It wasn't that difficult. Like I said, getting beat during the regular season, I think we only won 15 games or 13 games or something like that. But we were dynamic, and we should never have lost the game. Those games we lost, it made us better. It made us more resilient, made us more humble. It made us work. It made them listen a little bit better. The coaches were there to help them to be good. And then we had some really class guys. I mean, you look down our roster. Guys that have been in the Hall of Fames or whatever. They're a class act. I was the right guy for that environment at the time. I was an ex-old lineman, so we don't like to be in the limelight too much. So I had a lot of guys with a lot of glam, and I loved the way they expressed themselves and got themselves in line whenever they had to. So for me, I try to be more like Don in that way, be more broad-minded, let the guys be who they are, let the guys express the way they feel, let them enjoy their lives. But when it came to work, it's time to work, And we had those kinds of guys, enough of them, for us to be great. We had enough journeyman guys that were humble and tough enough mentally to carry. So we were pretty veteran, So we had guys from the 1990 team that had won a lot of games and scored a lot of points, and they kind of carried it over. And you had pinball. How can you lose?
Gonna ask you that, and I think Nick was gonna ask you that too. What was your first impression of meeting Mike Pinball Clements, who came to the Argos in 1989, and I believe it was Bob Obilovich, who brought pinball to Toronto and changed the Argonauts franchise?
Well, Don Matthews has one thing that maybe I disagree with a little bit, just a tiny bit, because I did the same thing he did. He told me the first day we're in the office in the Sky Dome, calls me into the office. I want you to look at this midget. I go, what? He goes, there's a guy named Michael Pinball Clements. I said, they call him the Pinball. I said, okay. I said, why? He goes, well, he's a great returner, but if he can't play on offense or defense, I don't want him. I don't want to waste one position, because at that time the rosters were a little bit more limited, right? And I said, okay. So I went and put on some video, and I saw him return a punt. I think it was a kick, and I mean, he made more guys miss. And I'm going, on this wide field, this guy is going to be dynamic in our offense, right? I can use him. And so I went back in, and Coach goes to me, that was quick. He said, Coach, I can use him. He goes, are you sure? I said, yeah. I said, it's okay. So we got him, and I remember the adjustments I had to make to use him, because he was technically a running back, and I'm a two-back guy. Two-back, four receivers, right? Mm-hmm. But I like my one back to be a receiver too, So we were playing. I forgot who we were playing, but we had this play called 90 protection, where the backs came out and they cut the ends. So in practice, it looked okay, but in practice, we don't cut. So we tell the guys we're going to cut because we don't want to get our guys hurt. But in the game, we came out smoking. And Pinball went to cut this guy when Pinball's 5'5" at best, right? With his heels on. And he went to cut the guy, and the guy just hurdled him and hit Dunnigan right in the head. Anyway, so we had film study the next day, and Pinball's apologizing. He said, "Hey, I got to apologize." He goes, "Why?" He goes, "I was the one that put you in that position. So I never had him block again, and I put him in the slot. I go to trips to one side. I put him out on the weak side. I had him against the linebacker. I got away with that for 1 year, and they never could cover that little guy. He was amazing in space, and so we were able to get him the ball that way. And when we put him in the backfield, we'd either run or play action with him. So, I think I wore him out a little bit, because when I had Bashir Livingston, he says, "I don't want him to play on offense, coach. Remember, you wore me out." I says, "You see that? I think I see your name up on that wall there." I said, "I think you had over 4,000 yards of total offense. Correct me if I'm wrong." He goes, "No, but I'm wore out." I said, "Yeah, you played how many years? And for the same club." So, but he was pretty protective of his returners. That's my pinball story.
Awesome. Nick?
Yeah, it's really exciting to hear you talk a lot about pinball, the legacy he's left, and he continues to leave on the Toronto Argonauts now in his position.
Can you believe if I just said no? History would have been so much different,
Yeah.
I think it was probably the best yes I've ever said. Look at what he's done for the community and the world, and the Argos, right? The guy, he's a complete guy. I remember his mom was there was a good family. She was a good lady.
Yeah, when we see anything about Pinball Clemens, he's synonymous with the city of Toronto, let alone the Toronto Argonauts. Like you look at players even on the Leafs or on the Blue Jays or the Raptors, and there's no one more connected with what this city represents and what I think just being a good person in general represents with what pinball gives, because he's just such a caring and passionate individual.
I tell you what, God made him little, but man, I've never seen a guy. He's like a dynamo. I mean, he's got so much energy, and he's got so much to give people. It's like I remember he was signing autographs. I mean, there's always people trying to get his autograph, and then we added a rocket, and it became crazy. Now I got pinball and rocket. I got 2,000 people lined up at Saskatchewan for autographs, and we got to practice. So we go out and practice, and everybody's watching us. We had quite the day before show. I gave the guys about 15 to 20 minutes. They could do anything they wanted to do, and they were crazy. They had skits and all kinds of stuff. But this is basically kind of, when you get it after the walkthrough of the kicking game, offense, no huddle, all the special situations, takes about an hour. And then you get the team together, and then you say a few words, and then the guys, they get to break. But they never really get to break because they have a skit or two, right? Something about a coach or a player or some gymnastics. Like one day, Rocket did a backflip, so then Kevin Smelly gets up and does a layout or whatever, and he goes on and on and on. And then, so I try to make it fun, but also I made sure that they knew when it's time to lock in, and they were really, really good about that. So if they didn't pay attention, they got their ass whooped, So, if you get that stuff out of the way during the regular season, the playoffs become much, much easier.
Adam, what were your thoughts on getting Rocket Ismail? Because as an Argonaut fan in '91, I did not see that coming where he came to the Canadian Football League. It was huge for me being 19 years old and an Argos fan. What were your thoughts as a head coach knowing that you're going to get Rocket Ismail for that offense too?
Well, there's a lot of pressure, when you spend that kind of money to get the number one overall draft pick in the NFL draft. It was freaking amazing. But it was something that our as a team, I think we fought a little bit, some of the players, I mean, that was unbelievable. I remember Bobby Ackles calling me and going, he was laughing on the phone. He was working for the Dallas Cowboys then. And he calls me up. He goes, kind of giggling. He goes, I heard you guys are thinking about signing Rocket Ishmael. Right? Rocket Ishmael. I go, yeah. He laughs. He goes, you kidding me? I go, no, he's here for a press conference now. He goes, what? He goes, we're going to draft him now. I said, you better change your mind right now and have another plan. And they did. I think they traded Herschel or somebody, and they got 3 number 1 overall draft picks, and were able to get a team through the draft. So it worked out, but it was unbelievable. And the most unbelievable part was we go to training camp in Guelph, and they got this big tent, and Gretzky, McNall, and John Candy shows up, and I'm going, we have to practice here. What's going on, right? So I'm walking to practice, and now they want me in this. I said, no, I got practice. Leave it up to those guys. You got enough people there to do whatever, right? So we went on to practice, and Rocket had to make an appearance and all this stuff. But it was pretty magical, really, when you think about it. I mean, I remember the opening game was with Ottawa. And I don't know if I should be saying this, but they want to give every player money for every point we score. I'm going, I go to Bruce, I go, we're already paying them. He said, no, I want to be sure that we win this game. I said, we're going to win it. And pinball, they're going to kick the ball to pinball. He's going to run it back for a touchdown. We're going to win the game on that play. And they looked at me like, I said, you realize that if you pay $100 for every point we score, we averaged 38 points last year. And we didn't have Rocket. Well, you don't have Rocket tonight. I says, yeah, we didn't have Rocket then. And we don't have Rocket tonight. We'll score 38 points. All right. I said, why don't you give him $100 for every touchdown? Right? Oh, yes. I think we scored 3 or 4 touchdowns, but pinball did catch the punt and went for a touchdown to win the game. It was just exactly the way I said it. I don't know why I said it, but I said it, right? And so they were wondering why I didn't play Rocket. I said, okay, we have a home opener. You got everybody that you know from Hollywood coming to this home opener. It's going to be a sellout. I said, do you want Rocket to he had a slight hamstring problem. And I said, do you want him to restrain it in this game, which we're going to win? I'm pretty confident we're going to win it. I said, and then not play in a game at home? Oh, no. Well, we need to win this game. I said, well, we have every intention to win it, and so does the other team. I can't guarantee it, but I got a good feeling about it, right? Because the guys wanted to prove that they can win without Rocket too, right? You know what I mean? So it was it was a great evening, and after we won the game, 30 something to whatever, and after the game, McNall comes up to me and said, "It would have cost me a fortune." I said, "Yeah, about 3,800 US a piece, you know, crazy." And then the home opener, Gretzky got every player a Roots jacket, the leather sleeves, and then the big A with the Argonauts on it. And so he goes to me and shows me the jacket. He goes, "Shall I give it to him before the game or after the game?" I said, "Give it to him after we win the game." He goes, "What if they don't win?" I said, "Give him to him after we win the game. We're going to win this game." And we went and won it. So when the guys went back to the locker room, they had these beautiful jackets. So they thought they were going to get a different thing every game.
What a
Oh,
time. Wow.
this is my granddaughter here. Say
Hello. Hello. I'm Chris, and that's Nick.
hello.
Future Argos fan.
My granddaughter. But anyway, so that was a most magical year. And what was pretty cool about it is that the players kind of took it over. It was like now everything was more about them. It's like I remember Dan Ferroni was my captain. He goes to me, "Unbelievable." I said, "What?" He said, I made an appearance and they paid me." He goes, "Rocket has put the value up on our players. The whole linemen are getting paid for making appearances." It's pretty funny. But yeah, it was the guys got more appearances. They got more things to do. Not that they never did it, but more things came on their plate that they could expose themselves to the public, and that was pretty cool. But I think CFL players do a great job of that anyway, and they don't ask for no money, they don't ask for anything, they just give, which is pretty cool.
One thing I know that I appreciate a lot nowadays is with the advent of social media, the ability to really communicate with players who you never would have been able to before. Getting to chat with, I don't know, Adam Bighill, Brandon Banks, Royce Metier. I'm just drawing names who I've spoken to, but the fact that you're able to speak with guys like that who you never would have been able to back in the day is such a really cool thing. And I think just how down to earth they are. Like after the Labor Day game this past weekend against Hamilton, like you just stand out and wait for the Argo players to come out of the tunnel to ride the bus, and you're able to say hello, shake hands with Cameron Judge or Nick Arbuckle or whoever after the game. It's such a rewarding feeling as a fan, I know, to be able to congratulate them or give them a sign of support after a tough loss, that you're able to lift their spirits and give them that feeling that we're still pulling for them no matter what happens.
Yeah, well, the CFL is still good that way. In the NFL, I mean, can you imagine if you're in Philadelphia?
It's corporate.
I mean, it's like
So much different.
Yeah, it's like violent. It's like Labor Day is always a great day when we played in Hamilton. The people there were so belligerent, so great. They were so.
Oh, it's still that way.
They threw batteries on the field too at Ivor Wynn Stadium.
Oh yeah, I remember the story that Vic Rapp told me. He said when we had guest coaches and they had a preseason game in Hamilton, and he was at Edmonton, and that's when they did the cross league thing, and he said when they used to go to the locker room at after warm-ups, to go in the locker room before the game started, the fans were pretty belligerent in that end zone, and and they had to put a cage around it. So they'd have the guest coaches, they'd all get them and say, "Okay, look, after warm-ups, we'll gather under the goalposts and we say 1, 2, 3, and we'll run into the locker room." And the guy goes, "Why?" He goes, "Well, these people throw shit at you and stuff like that." So they go 1, 2, 3, and the rookie coaches or the guest coaches would run in, and the fans would be throwing shit, stuff at them, and old veteran coach has been there before. They just throw behind them, right? Because the fans already used all the ammunition in the first group.
Yeah, it's gone maybe a little bit better, but yeah, sometimes that Labor Day game is still something different. Like, I don't know if you heard about it, but me and a couple of friends, we walked to raise money for CFL Fans Fight Cancer. Dallas Bergen, Rick Boccaccio, Connor Solve, and Charlotte Bourdin. We walked from, sorry, Charlotte Ferdin. We walked from BMO Field to Hamilton Stadium, and that in itself was great. Now we raised $5,000 for CFL
Wow.
Fans Fight Cancer. But when you get things like, oh, how much will I pay to punch you in the face? Like Connor had Hamilton fans say that to him. Like it's pretty disheartening that the Labor Day game devolves to that level of conflict instead of being a day where we can really, put our differences aside and celebrate.
We gotta stop acting like we're in the U.S. And stay more Canadian, more. I don't know how to put it better than that because they're too damn violent down there. Unless I'm scouting, where I can go up the elevator and get into a booth and look, like when I was at the Argos, I used to scout Detroit and places like that. And it's scary when you park your car. Okay?
Oh yeah.
Hey, so I used to find a kid that, he was basically strong arming people for parking, which he can't do, but I give him $20 and say, hey, $20 more when I come back and my car's still here. Say, okay. And that's how we'd get away. When I was in LA, the same way. There's no way I'm down in Watts. I'll pay the extra dollars for somebody to watch my car. It's not even my car; it's a rental anyway. So, but
Adam, we have a Argonaut fan from St. Louis, Missouri, watching tonight. His name is George Brown. He loves the Argonauts, and I did an interview with him on the GO train before the home opener. So his name's George Brown from Missouri. Loves the Argos. Came up to a game here. He loves the CFL. He wanted to say hi to you, Adam, and likes our show as well.
thank you, George. Thank you for being a fan. We can use all the fans we can get.
By the way, Adam, I started a new career into radio media 6 years ago, and I am now 53, self-taught, and it was the Canadian Football League and Chris Belinovich and the Toronto Argonauts who opened up their hearts to me, and I've learned how to do player interviews and do media work through being associated with the CFL and the Toronto Argonauts, and I'm very grateful to this league, and they make me feel like a part of the team in the organization.
Yeah, they're class acts. You can't beat the CFL that way, though. I mean, that's the one thing that I miss is the traveling through all the different cities, meeting the different fans, the different people who work for the press, different coaches. It's great when you're walking in Saskatchewan, walking through a tailgate, and then they're offering you food or drink or whatever, and or in Hamilton, hey coach, park your car here. As long as it's going to be here next. When we win the game, it's still going to be here, right?
Hey Adam, before we let you go in 5 minutes, if you're okay for 5 minutes, I guess we could talk to you for 5 to 6 hours. But I wanted to get your thoughts. You've had such a great career as a head coach, offensive coordinator, and GM. You were a part of that '91 Argos team, which was magical. But you're also part of the '96 Toronto Argonauts team, which I think is one of the best teams in history as well. Just thoughts on that team and Doug Flutie.
Well, '96, I came back. I think I came back from Memphis, and Don put together a great staff. We had all these different all-stars from the different teams in the U.S. That we were associated with. And so we had a really good team. And then he got Doug Flutie, which was amazing guy to work with. He was very intellectual, great what I call FBI football intelligence. And you only had to kind of explain the concept once to him. I remember when we were putting in the shovel pass series, which I call Spike, the one that drove volleyball nuts. Anyway, because I had pinball, and pinball would be up in a weak side slot, and I shuffle him over on the snap of the ball, and we'd block back, we'd option the end. And if the end closed on pinball, Doug would keep it, and we ran patterns up the field. And then if they would come to Doug, then we would pitch the ball underneath to pinball, and pinball could make you miss in a phone booth. So that play he made the play really. Then one game we had Keith Stokes, and he was playing the X receiver. He goes, "Coach, everybody's rotating away. Just get me the ball out here." So I put in a little screen off that action, and he went all the way for a touchdown. All I had to do was attach the blocking scheme to the play, and it worked. And so that's how that's what I miss the most about the CFL is the intimate relationship that you have with players, because it's only you and them. There's nobody else. There might be the O-line coach and you, and that's it. So they get to contribute a lot.
Adam, before
Yes,
we
sir.
wrap this up, and I'm gonna let Nick ask you the last two questions. I wanted to get your perspective as a general manager, a head coach, and an offensive coordinator. You have a player like Nick Arbuckle who's playing at an MOP level right now, and then you have a quarterback with the talent of Chad Kelly, who unfortunately he's been out the last 10 months. As a head coach, and it's not easy, obviously, from your experience, Ryan Dimwitty, how difficult is it for a head coach to take a guy out like Arbuckle, who has chemistry with this team and is playing well, to bring back a quarterback who's very talented, but he's been out for 10 months? I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on the Arbuckle Kelly situation in Toronto.
Arbuckle should finish the season, I think. Kelly can get better. He had a serious injury, apparently, because he's still not playing. So how ready is he really going to be, right? So you can save him. Now, is Arbuckle under contract for next season? That's where you're going to have a problem, right? If he's under contract and Kelly's under contract, then you got to trade one of them. I hope you can get a backup quarterback that has that kind of pedigree in the making. That's as a GM, I would try to keep them both. But as a coach, I'm not sure I can manipulate both.
It's very interesting to see how it kind of parallels to, say, BC last season, where they kind of fell in a similar situation where Nathan Rourke came back after some time in the NFL trying to scout for teams, and they had Vernon Adams, and it kind of backfired on BC, where they did bring Rourke back, but it also cost them circumventing the cap. And then they trade Vernon Adams away to Calgary in the offseason, but they still have to pay the penalties in terms of draft picks. I think it's a little bit different in the situation with Toronto, because of course, like, it's not like Chad Kelly went and tried out for Indianapolis and Baltimore and Cleveland or wherever, and then came back, and he's always been within the Argonauts radar, and he's been maybe not all the time, but he's been present in practice, even if it's on the sidelines or in a limited capacity. But Yeah, it's just such a really difficult decision to make on when you bring him back and how difficult you play. In part because of how well Nick Arbuckle's played with 300 yards passing over the last 6 games. But at the same time, on that argument, like not that it's his fault, but they've only won 3 of those 6 games, so it really makes a really challenging, almost a lose-lose situation if you're in management, because if you keep Arbuckle in and he doesn't work well, you can say, oh, well, they should have put Chad Kelly in. But if they put Chad Kelly in and it doesn't work out, then you say, oh, they should have kept Nick, the hot hand, in.
Well, I don't think it's a problem this year.
Mm-hmm.
Although the press would like to make it a problem because, really, you can justify the fact the way Arbuckle's playing and Chad Kelly hasn't played. He hasn't played.
10 months. 10
Yeah.
months.
So you're going to put him in a situation where can he protect himself?
Mm-hmm.
Has he had enough reps? Stuff like that. Now you're coming down to the Argos still have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And the quarterback's not your problem. So I think that if they're going to do anything, is they just got to get a little bit better on defense and on teams. And then they'll be okay. And they're starting to come around. They're starting to believe a little bit. And they have a great coach. So
One of the
quarterback
best.
is not. They're in a good situation quarterback-wise. There might be some controversy as you go along, but there's better controversy than not having anything at all. Especially if you have 2 good quarterbacks and not 2 average guys. You know what I mean?
Adam, how important is chemistry? Chemistry with a quarterback in his receiving core.
Well, when we led the nation in offense when I was at Boise, we maybe missed 2 days a week. I'm talking maybe Christmas, New Year's, or whatever. And we were good. So I think time with each other means a lot, But sometimes you don't have that time, right? So, it's like when we got David Williams in trade with Edmonton, he had a day of practice, maybe 2 at the most. And he went out there and scored 3 touchdowns. But he had been in my offense before, right? And the quarterback who threw him the ball had thrown him touchdown passes before. So, it was easy, or easier. But, the whole thing is repertoire between a quarterback and receiver. You look at Greer and Connie, right? They were pretty magical. But I think it was Connie, wasn't it, with Greer?
Yeah, Conrad Holloway and Greer. Yeah. And by the way, the Toronto Argonauts need to retire number 10 because to me, Terry Greer is one of the all-time greatest receivers in Argo history and CFL history in his 6-year career, in my opinion.
That's a tough, sorry, Chris, but that's a really tough thing to put him up with the 4 numbers that are already retired between Nicola, Kroll, Shadow, and Pinball.
2003 yards, first receiver to do that in pro football. 1983.
Yeah, I would retire. He's a class act and he's a hell of a player. I mean,
Nick, I wish you could have saw him play.
Yeah, he's a great person too. Just class act. So.
Hey, Adam, we're going to wrap this up with you soon because we've kept you over an hour, but we'd love to have you come back on again in the future for part 2 because we could talk to you for hours. I'm going to let Nick, my younger co-host, ask you the last question tonight as well. Nick, go ahead. Oh, I think we lost Adam there.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully we can get Adam back.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't really have another question lined up to ask. Adam Reed has been such a class act and is one of probably the most famous Argonaut coaches that they've ever had over their history. It's so wonderful to have such amazing insight and to listen to just such amazing stories from him.
We
about
have him
the-
back. We got him
Sorry.
back. No, it's okay,
Oh,
Adam.
you're all
It's
good.
okay,
Welcome
Adam.
back.
So
I don't really have a question lined up, to be honest. You've answered pretty much all of what I wanted to ask. Chris, do you have anything that you wanted to talk about?
one last thing, Adam. I love the CFL. I love CFL, NFL, college football. That Philadelphia Eagles game last night against Dallas, have you ever seen a player, obviously spitting and emotions happen in football, but have you ever seen a situation where a player got kicked out before the first play of the game?
Never. I mean, that was, I don't know why he did that. That was like no poise at all, eh? I mean, sheesh.
Apparently Prescott spit towards him, and from what I've been told, Jalen took it personally and then he spit right on him. So, but I just wanted to get your perspective on that.
I know, sorry to interrupt, but I know when like my dad had seen it happen, he watched it live. I didn't watch it until way after the fact, but I know my dad's first thought was that he was a captain because of the way it was so early in the game. Like he thought it was pretty, like especially on that idea that it could have been a leader on the team, or the way he interpreted it as was pretty like I like you can't do it in general, but the fact that like it could have been interpreted that he was supposed to be a leader on the team, like that's just such a disrespectful thing to do.
How about giving the other team a chance to win? Yeah. I mean, dude, if they would have lost that game, there'd be a lot of pissed off teammates, because he let them down big time.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like he's getting paid $1.95 an hour either. So I hope they find his ass, and I hope he learns from it, because he seemed like a fairly classy guy, But she's to lose your I know that Philly and Cowboy games are intense, but the more intense they are, the more poise you have to have, and the more calm you have to have, the more control of your emotions. You play with a high emotion, but don't make it personal. When you do that, then you're in trouble.
Adam, we're gonna wrap this up and let you go. I wanted to get your thoughts. Will you be at the Argos' next home game against the Edmonton Oaks on September 13th? Because it's John Candy tribute game at BMO Field.
If not, if I'm not in Detroit with the football North, I'll be there. I'll let you know.
Okay, because it would be me and Nick would love to meet you in person and have so much respect for you, and what a tremendous 28-year career you had in the CFL, and you brought the Toronto Argonauts a lot of success and a couple of Grey Cups. And Nick and I would want to say thank you for coming on, giving us over an hour of your time, and you have an open invite to come back on again, because I'd love to talk a little more about the 96 Toronto Argonauts with Doug Flutie and Pinball Clements and Don Matthews and that run they had from 96 and 97, and a little more of the later part of your career as well.
Okay, dokie. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
very
so much, Adam. And
Have
I
a-
will send you. Oh, where can people follow you on social media?
I'm only on Facebook.
Facebook? Okay. So if you're watching this show or listening, if you want to get in contact with Adam Rita on social media, Facebook's your bet. But Adam, thank you so much. And I will send you the full video, audio, and some reels and clips on this as well. Enjoy your weekend, and maybe some more, and lots of CFL football, college football, and NFL this weekend too.
Okay, I'll be doing that. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so
See
much,
ya.
Adam.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Adam. Take care.
Thank you.
Hey.
You too. That was Adam Rita, the longtime CFL head coach, offensive coordinator, general manager, 6-time Grey Cup champion for the head coach, and part of 2 Grey Cup championships with the Toronto Argonauts. And Nick, I can't speak for you, but I could have spoken to Adam for 5, 6, 7 hours tonight about his football career.
Oh yeah, it's exactly the same when he came and spoke at the alumni luncheon. He had so many stories to tell and so many great adventures on his journeys. You could see how well traveled he is. Like just look up Wikipedia's profile and you look at how far he's traveled across the
The
country,
world.
across the world
Yeah.
to coach football, and it's just absolutely unbelievable and so fantastically amazing that we're able to speak to him and he's able to give so much insight. Such a fantastic individual, and yeah, can't be more thankful that he's here to be able to talk CFL football with us.
Hey, look at this. We've had Adam Rita on. We've had Marty York on, Damon Allen on our show. A lot of legends, and that's what I love about this league, Nick. Like I said, I just started doing media work 6 years ago, and the CFL and the Argonauts and even the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the league have been really great. And I'd like to have Adam back on again as well to talk about the '96 team and a little bit more about the later stages and transitioning from a head coach to a general manager as well.
Yeah, if it weren't for time, we could have dragged this out for 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah,
So yeah, Adam Rita is just such a knowledgeable and like insider type individual who
yeah,
knows so much about how the game is. Just to cut in and bring a little bit of updates, the BC
yeah.
Lions are up 13-3 right now. Um, After the second half, they're early in the third quarter right now, and the Laurier Golden Hawks managed to hold out to beat the Queens Gales 47-32. So Laurier really tuned it on in the second half, but still not quite the dominating fashion that they were when they won the Yates Cup. So when things kind of start to develop, I think next week Laurier is in Waterloo against UW. So things are going to ramp up a little bit.
Which team in the OUA has been a surprise so far this year, Nick?
The one I am honestly most impressed by is the Guelph Griffins and Tristan Abboud. He is a really, really talented quarterback, and he's a guy who I think between his ability to scramble, ability to throw the ball deep, we saw that in both the Laurier game and the Western game, even if it didn't result in wins for Queens and their own two, or sorry, for Guelph, their own two. He has that ability that's not someone like Trey Ford. So I really think if there's a guy that you're on the look for, if you're just looking at QB play, he's a great guy to look at. U of T's quarterback's also a great guy to look at. They won their first game of the season, dropped their second, so they're in a good situation there. Laurier, like I found this game, I didn't get as good a view of the second half, obviously, as the first because we had our stream going on. I had it in the background, but I thought that their O line was really struggling, and their quarterback just isn't quite the same level as Taylor Alguerzma. But I want to give a huge shout out to their wide receiver who is on par to be about Ethan Jordan is about to be on par as any other wide receiver in the CFL right now. Ottawa Red Blacks draft pick Ethan Jordan. He has the ability, the skill set. He kind of reminds me like a Canadian version of Kenny Lawler. He makes those deep catches and has a lot of tremendous athletic ability. He's showing right now that it isn't just that he was carried on the back of having Taylor Alguerzma as a quarterback. He's probably going to top Curly Gins Jr. as the best wide receiver that Laurier has ever had. So that's pretty high company to put him in account with.
Hey, Nick, are you good for 5 more minutes before we wrap up the show?
I'm always good. That's what we're here for. We're the co-hosts, right?
All right, Nick. Just can you tell us again about your 65-kilometer walk from BMO Field to Hamilton Stadium, and how much money did you guys raise, and what was the hardest part of the 65-kilometer walk?
Yeah, great questions to ask, Chris. Connor, Rick, Dallas, Catherine, and myself, we're all really proud to have completed that walk. I also want to give us a shout out to Dan Moore and Randy Fulton, who came across with us for the 2 days, the first 2 days of the walk. We managed to raise over $5,000 in terms of both online and physical donations. And then in our donations bucket alone, we raised $1,111.70. So a huge, tremendous dollars when it was all said and done to CFL Fans Fight Cancer. I'm going to give a shout out to Wally Walker and Samuel Quinn, who also did the jersey swap. Hamilton Ticat fans wearing Argos jerseys on Labor Day to raise some money as well. So that money is contributed to it too. Yeah, we're really super thankful. It was such a fun couple of days. Definitely it hit its points of adversity and challenge, but we were so proud to make it done. It's the most unbelievable feeling when, I drive home from Cawthra through Port Credit to my house in Mississauga, or just whenever doing grocery runs or whatever. And I look at the road I run and I said, hey, I walked on this street all the way to Hamilton for the Labor Day game. It is such a fantastic feeling. The hardest, the most difficult, Connor will disagree with me. He believed that the most challenging part was funny in my neck of the woods, going from Port Credit to Southdown Road, where it's really kind of up and down and up and down. It's very hilly and windy and snaky, where you just do a lot of hills, elevation. But for me, the part I hated the most was at the Skyway, when you clear the Skyway Bridge and then you're underneath and then you're going on the highway on the low road beside. It's not on the sidewalk. You're on a dirt gravel road. You've got nothing kind of around you to protect you from all the cars zooming by at 100 kilometers an hour. And to make it the worst of all, you see the end just way, way, way down. And it's like, you're just thinking, oh, is it almost over? Is it almost over? And you're just walking and it just never seems to end. That was definitely the hardest part. And then the other challenge too was that we had gone and watched the Winnipeg Saskatchewan game at Joe Dog's Bar and Grill. Amazing place. Give a huge shout out to them. Their nachos were amazing. Their foot-long hot dogs were amazing. But when you go and watch a game and you don't get out there until 10 o'clock, then you've got to walk out under the Skyway for 3 hours from 10 until like 2 in the morning, it takes its toll. So that easily enough was the hardest thing that I had to.
Did you eat a lot after that? And I am assuming the next day or two you slept for a while?
Yeah, the tailgate was great. I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Ginger Argo. Everybody who is in the Argonauts fan base knows him by heart. He made some fantastic breakfast logs. It was like a bacon wrapped mega sausage with eggs and potatoes and bacon, just the absolute perfect nutritious thing that we needed at the end of a big walk. We only did 5 kilometers at the end of our walk. I'm going to give a shout out to Rick Boccaccio. Let's stay at his place in Hamilton, about 20 minutes away from the stadium. So it's easy to continue where we left off on the last day. I'm also going to thank Mike Pinball Clemens and John Murphy. Pinball and John joined us in the early stage of our walk on the final day up Barton Street. We got a really great, inspiring speech from Pinball, and John Murphy was he joined us for our walk from that last point. So about 5 kilometers till we got to the tailgate lot. Got a fantastic photo together as a group with the Hamilton Ticats cheerleaders. So we are just super thankful that we have such amazing individuals within the Ticats and the Argonauts organization who are supportive of us. And of course, especially this year, like obviously the CFL Fans Fight Cancer organization, if you didn't know, started from Ron Lancaster's diagnosis with cancer in 2006, but with Ted Govea's diagnosis this past year, it makes it even more meaningful for us that we were able to raise as much money as we did, and we're really excited to go into to Winnipeg for the Grey Cup and show some support for that as well. So if you haven't already seen or donated, you can go to cflfansfightcancer.com. All the money is going to the Cancer Care Manitoba Foundation. So we're about, I think, about a third of the way to our goal of $100,000. We're at about just under 30,000. So we appreciate any donations, any support, and you bet that when we get to the big auction event at the end of the year in Winnipeg, it's going to be a huge breakthrough event.
Hey, Nick, as we wrap this up, congratulations. And next year, you guys should invite me so I can prove that 54-year-old guys can walk 65 kilometers as well. I might even go 66 just to beat you guys by 1 kilometer.
Yeah, while we're there, we're all ready and good to go. So I know I'm ready to do it next year. I think Connor, Rick, and Dallas are all excited for it as well. So we're all ready and set to go. Connor,
and maybe
and your
Rick mom and brother, your mom and brother can come.
Yeah, I don't know if Kyle's gonna do it, but I think my mom, she's already been walking a bit more, so she might be more inspired to do it next year. And again, you don't have to do the whole walk. We usually split it up in over 4 days, so we'll do 20K, 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 and 5-day, so it's a little bit more manageable. So if you can even come out for just one of the days, by all means, come out, reach me. You can reach Connor, any of us. We'll be more than happy to give you the details as we get closer to the walk. But of course, we won't have to worry about it until we get a little bit closer to next Labor Day. We are not walking to Calgary or to Saskatchewan or to BC in 3 weeks when the Argos play there, which is good because flights are only around $200, and that's a little bit more manageable for my budget.
Hey, Nick, as we wrap this up, the CFL Power Rankings, I came up with my list for this week. I've got Saskatchewan, Calgary, Winnipeg, Hamilton, Montreal. Toronto moves from number 9 to number 6. BC's number 7, Edmonton's 8, and Ottawa 9. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's pretty close to about how I'd want it. I'm Hamilton, Montreal, and Toronto is a really tough bag of worms because you could throw Toronto above both Hamilton and Montreal, maybe, but I kind of respect where you keep them at right now. BC, I do think dropping them back's pretty appropriate, and I don't know. They're winning right now against Ottawa, but I don't even know if you can warrant putting them above because if Ottawa's kind of in their situation right now, it almost doesn't warrant putting them above. The game that I think is going to be really key to watch right now is Edmonton and Calgary because although Calgary won pretty handily in the first game, the Labor Day game last week, they moved to Edmonton. Nothing set in stone. I think a lot of people still expect Calgary to win that game, but you never know in the CFL. And if Edmonton comes swinging, I've said it before, I do not like picking teams at a 7 or higher point spread because it's really, really difficult to win by 7 or more points, contrary to what a lot of people think.
And the Philadelphia Eagles last night were favored by 7.5 over the Cowboys, and obviously didn't cover. It was only a 4-point game. So
I mean,
Nick, I tend to agree with you. In CFL, NFL, college football, 7.5 or bigger point spreads, it's hard to cover.
I mean, if what's his name on Dallas, the dude with all the gold on his teeth and the gold on his ears and the gold on his neck and the gold everywhere else but his hands because he couldn't catch the football. If what's his name had caught that pass, I mean, it was twice, 2 opportunities to catch a big pass late in the game, and then that might have given the Dallas Cowboys the win. So it shows you just one play can make a huge difference at covering the spread or not.
Nick, before we wrap this up, I had to bring this up with you because I know we had a great conversation with Adam Rita, but the Arbuckle play to Sept was great, but Jake Herslow set that up with that kickoff return to set it to the 40-yard line. As a fan in the stands at that game, I didn't see it live. I watched it later. What were your thoughts on Arbuckle's throw to Brissett, who jumped Amos and somebody else to get that ball, but he almost cost the team the game because he apparently scored a touchdown with no time left on, but he stepped out of bounds, I think, at the 4-yard line with 1 second left. Thank God he stepped out because that could have been devastating where the game was over and they lost.
It would have been the most Argo bounce, the most Argonaut way to lose possible if he would have been well within field goal range with a kick at the 2-yard line or whatever, 4-yard line, and time had ran out. So it was just kind of really fortunate in circumstances. And I know whoever it was on the sideline there grabbed him by the throat basically and said, "What the hell were you thinking to try to go for the score there instead of ensuring the points?" And even then, like, I know Liram Haverlau made the kick, and I know it was a pyramiding penalty that Hamilton took, but like they did everything they could to try to block that kick. And if they had done it, it would have made things really, really sketchy. So I'm just thankful we went away with the win in that game. And it was really funny watching it as a fan because like everybody went into cheers when they said he didn't score, but the thought was that the time had ran out. But when Justin McInnes had to send, there was 1 second left on the clock. Like the stadium just fell kind of in a weird, like, cheers turned to silence, and that they thought, oh, that was going to cost them the game, and it did. And it's a huge win for Toronto. It sets Hamilton now only 1 win, 2 points ahead of Montreal. Toronto's 3 games, 6 points back. And it really means that anything can happen. So if Montreal beats Hamilton, like I'm predicting, and Toronto with their bye week, like they could get within a game. Like again, forget about the crossover. Now they're in a potential to win the division again, all because the East is still weak.
Yep. Nick, I know you're getting tired, and so am I. We'll wrap this up. This is my 16th show in the last 2 weeks, so I'm glad we were able to do this tonight. And again, I want to say thank you to Adam Rita for coming on here. And Adam will come back on again in the future, and we could talk to him for hours and stuff like that. Nick, CFL Week 14 going on.
Yep. So
we got BC in Ottawa going on tonight, Hamilton, Montreal, Saskatchewan, and Winnipeg, and Calgary and Edmonton this weekend. I'll let you go first, Nick, with your Week 14 picks.
Yep. I have BC over Ottawa, which, spoiler, it seems to be working okay for me because they're up 20-10. I have Montreal over Hamilton at home in the upset. I have Saskatchewan over Winnipeg on the road, and I have Calgary over Edmonton on the road.
As for myself, I have BC winning. Hamilton will snap their 3-game losing streak against the Montreal Alouettes, which I'm hoping I'm wrong. But BC, Hamilton, 2 road teams. Saskatchewan and Winnipeg. Dalton Schoen's, I guess the receiver is out for the year.
Yep.
You know what? I'm going to go with Winnipeg at home in an upset over Saskatchewan. I just have a gut feeling the Bombers are going to have a big game out of Brady Oliveira and Zach Collaros, and I think Saskatchewan's due for a loss. And then Calgary and Edmonton, got to go with Calgary. I think Calgary's a better football club than Edmonton is.
I will say, for Winnipeg's sake, I hope so they get more out of Brady Oliveira, because I think Brady Oliveira has only had a 50-yard rushing game once of the last 4 games. So for whatever reason, it's kind of like the Grey Cup. They're just not using him to his full potential, which is maybe a little frustrating for the Winnipeg fans, especially with the home Grey Cup set up for this year.
By the way, I got to make an announcement here. For 2026 Toronto Argonauts season tickets, you can contact Toronto Argonauts account coordinator Jada Christian at 416-815-6139. That's 416-815-6139. Or you can email Jada Christian at jada.christian@mlse.com if you're looking to get Argonaut season tickets in 2026. And I thought I'd give her a shout out for helping me out and doing a good job with customer service for the Toronto Argonauts. And Nick, before we wrap this up, final thoughts on Adam Rita and the John Candy tribute game coming up on next Saturday at 3:00 against Edmonton, with a GO train being shut down from the Hamilton-Burlington area as well, which is going to be an issue with a number of fans.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an issue for myself. So if you haven't already, be prepared to make alternative transit plans, whether you go to Long Branch and take the streetcar, or just drive down to the game yourself, like I'm probably planning on doing. Take full advantage of the tailgating scene south of BMO Field. Get there early if you're able to take the time to travel. It's a Saturday game, so hopefully you're able to go early in the morning and beat the traffic and spend the whole day down there. It's always a fun experience at the Argo tailgate. We had a couple of fans do that debate this week on who's the best, and Toronto has typically ranked second or third above Winnipeg but behind Hamilton. So that says a lot about how good the tailgating scene is in Toronto. You can join us for East of Us before we go into the stadium. And the giveaway is huge. There are 5,000 John Candy shirts that are given away to the first 5,000 fans out of what is probably going to be a 1,500 fan crowd, give or take. So if you want to get one, be there a little early, or if you're like me and you don't care and you're just there for the football game, then you can go ahead and enjoy it. The southeast end zone typically opens up about an hour and a half to 2 hours before the kickoff time that's scheduled. Or you can go when the rest of the gates open with about an hour before kickoff. We're really excited. It's going to be a fun game. It's a really important game because we lost the first game to Edmonton and now we're playing at home. So they need to prove that they're better than Edmonton. Edmonton has like 12 former Argos on their roster, but a bunch of them are down due to injury. So it's really a good situation to be in. And a really important game. So hopefully you can come on out and join us, cheer the Argonauts on. I will either be in my seats in 224 or in the south end zone. So if you're a fan that likes to talk football with me, by all means, I'm more than approachable. Come and say hi.
And update from Ottawa, BC 20, Ottawa 10 in the third quarter. And NFL update, the Chargers were up 10-3 on the Chiefs as well. But hey, Nick, I want to say thank you for coming on short notice tonight. And thoughts on Adam Rita being on our show tonight?
Yeah, huge thank you for Adam Rita joining us, one of the ultimate class acts of the CFL. Fantastic individual. I hope we have him again soon, that he's able to share some more stories because, you never know in the CFL. There's with everything going on, it's so fortunate that we're able to have someone like him out. And give a shout out to my Laurier Golden Hawks for beating Queens in a game that they probably should have won by more, but they still managed to put up 47 points. So super proud of them for that, and excited for how this BC Ottawa game is going to end because it's only a 2010 game. BC's been in control for most of it, but if Ottawa's able to break something out, then it could very much well turn on its head.
Finally, Nick, where can the audience follow you on social media?
As always, you can find me on Nick_small_38 on Twitter and on YouTube by the same name. Yeah, I'm always happy to talk CFL football. So if you're ever willing to tag me on something, I'm more than happy to join the conversation and share my thoughts. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you so much, Nick, for coming on episode 10 on short notice, along with Adam Rita. And hopefully we'll see you next Saturday, depending on how I can find transportation down to Toronto. So fingers crossed, because it's another huge game for the Toronto Argonauts and even the Edmonton Elks, who have 4 wins as well. So it's going to be a huge game for both teams. But hey, Nick, thank you so much for doing this. And we'll see you after the Argos Elks game, and we'll do another episode number 11 the following week. So we'll see you in just over a week's time.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks for everybody tuning in. And as always, go Argos.
And make sure, stick with Nick t-shirts coming up. All right, everybody, that was a little joke about the Argos quarterback situation right now with Nick Arbuckle and Chad Kelly. But whoever the quarterback is, the Argos are in good shape going forward as well. And again, thank you to Adam Rita, the legendary CFL head coach, offensive coordinator, and general manager, for coming on our show tonight. And thank you to Nick for coming on as well. And again, if you're a Toronto Argonauts fan and you love the Argos and you love BMO Field and the CFL product, for 2026 Toronto Argonauts season tickets, you can contact Toronto Argonauts account coordinator Jada Christian at 416-815-6139. Tell her that Chris Pomay told you to call her, or you can email her via email Jada Christian at mlse.ca. Jada.com. Jada is doing a great job her first year as an account coordinator, and I'm just finishing my third year up as a Toronto Argonauts season ticket holder as well. And as speaking for the Toronto Argonauts, they're 4-8 now after their 35-33 thrilling comeback win against Hamilton. The Argos are on a bye week and don't play again until next Saturday, September 13th. 3 p.m. at BMO Field. You can get your tickets at argonauts.ca or watch the game on TSN or listen to it on TSN 1050 with Mike Hogan and Ben Grant. I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, Instagram, and available on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods, and wherever you get your podcasts as well. And the next Argo Bounce Podcast show, episode 11, will take place probably in about 10 days from now after their game against the Edmonton Elks and the Argos next Saturday at 3 p.m. at BMO Field. And the first 5,000 Argo fans will get a John Candy tribute t-shirt as well for the former late Argos owner and Hollywood great as well. And my favorite John Candy movie, by the way, for anyone watching still, is Uncle Buck. I loved all the John Candy movies and his days with SCTV, but I would say Uncle Buck 1989 was my favorite John Candy movie. And just too bad that he passed away at the age of 44. A Toronto legend, a Canadian legend, and it's really nice the Argos are doing this John Candy tribute game next Saturday against Edmonton, and there's no reason why the Argos can't draw 20,000 fans against Edmonton next Saturday, and looking forward to it as well. That is about it, guys. I'm going to wrap up my 16th live stream show in the last 2 weeks. I've been doing a lot of shows and a lot of great guests. And again, thank you to Adam Rita for coming on here tonight, along with my co-host, Nick Small. We will see you back here in probably in about 10 days. And Nick and I will break down the Argos Elks game, hopefully an Argo win, and maybe talk a little bit about the John Candy tribute game and preview Week 15 in the CFL coming up as well. I hope everybody has a great night. Enjoy the CFL action, the NFL starting up, as well as Major League Baseball. It's a great time of the year here for sports in North America, especially with college football, the NFL back, and the CFL running into the CFL heading towards the playoffs in October as well. So enjoy your evening, enjoy your weekend and your football, and me and Nick will see you back here in about 10 days for episode 11 of the Argo Bounce Podcast show. And as always, go Argos.
Fight the foe, scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go, go, go. Fight the